Okay, so for this question, first of all, you have to understand that there's a fact given. Even if you don't agree with it, you still have to accept it as a fact for the question. And then after that, there are two questions asked, and this is basically problems, causes, and solutions. So the fact is a problem, which is global warming, and then it asks for causes, and then it asks you to provide solutions. So planning these types of essays is very straightforward because in one paragraph you talk about the first question and you answer that, and in another paragraph you talk about the second question, and then you conclude. So it's a four paragraph essay, and there's not much to it. You have an introduction at the beginning, and then one paragraph for causes, one paragraph for solutions, and then a conclusion. So 4-paragraph essay, right? Now, let's take a look at the intro that I wrote for you guys. So here it says, as the average temperature of our planet increases every year, we are faced with increasing negative consequences of this phenomenon. I believe that global warming is a pressing issue caused by human activity, and radical measures must be adopted to quickly reverse it. So first of all, I have a background statement and then a thesis statement. And the background statement is a complex sentence. This is the subordinate clause and then the main clause, and then the thesis statement is also a complex sentence. It's actually a compound complex sentence. I believe that, so that global warming is a pressing issue, so that's the subordinate clause. And then caused by human activity, that's another subordinate clause, it's reduced. And then we have and then radical measures must be adopted to from radical to reverse it. All of that is another independent clause. So this is a compound complex. So one complex, one compound complex. And you can see that I have given just a general overview or a general view of what I think is causing it. But I can't really go into the solutions here, so I will just say radical measures must be adopted to reverse it, and that's acceptable. But I mentioned causes and I mentioned solutions in the introduction paragraph. Okay. Do you guys have any questions about it?
So, Kar, for every 2-part questions,
yeah.
What is the method to have the thesis statement? Like, have to include something from both questions?
Yes, I would say so. For 2-part questions, you will probably have to touch upon both questions. Yes. And if you look at the handout, the course handout, the course pack by that teacher, by Mr. Tassani, that I teach in my classes, you will notice that he does the same thing. That he just touches upon them, but he doesn't go into detail necessarily. He just touches upon them and then leaves the details for the body paragraphs. Okay, so let's go with this first body paragraph. The first body paragraph is a bit long. The entire essay is about 290 words, so I tried to keep it shorter than usual this time. The research on the causes of global warming is very clear. So here, this paragraph is about the causes. So as you can see, I have added a topic sentence that talks about the causes, and it's a short one and it's a simple sentence, and that's intentional because you want your topic sentence to be short and clear and to the point. Now, as humans build factories and cars that use fossil fuels to operate, they release CO2 into the atmosphere. More than 97% of the CO2 in the atmosphere is created by large factories that burn fossil fuels. Semicolon. The other 3% is a result of people's lifestyle choices, such as driving cars with low fuel efficiency or not recycling their waste. Once, atmospheric CO2 levels increase, sunlight is trapped, leading to higher temperatures and a phenomenon generally referred to as the greenhouse effect. The warming of the planet also leads to the melting of polar ice, which increases seawater levels and threatens certain species that depend on lower temperatures to survive. The greenhouse effect can also create unpredictable weather, such as the devastating hail in Calgary a few years ago. So this is more like a cause and effect paragraph, but at the end I have added an example too. And you can see that because it talks about the causes, so then it makes sense to have a cause and effect paragraph. Okay? And let's analyze the sentences. As humans build factories and cars, so here these are two subordinate clauses. One starts with as, and then the other one is a noun clause that use fossil fuels to operate. And then the main clause is they release CO2 into the atmosphere, so that's a complex. Then more than 90% of the CO2 in the atmosphere is created by large factories that burn fossil fuels, so that's a relative clause. And then we have a semicolon, so that makes it compound complex. The other 3% is a result of people's lifestyle choices, such as, and then after that, all of that is a phrase, right? So that's a compound complex. It's a longer sentence. And then once atmospheric CO2 levels increase, that's a subordinate clause again. Sunlight is trapped, that's the main clause, leading to higher temperatures and a phenomenon generally referred to as the greenhouse effect. So that's a reduced relative clause. And you can see that the relative pronoun has been reduced to a gerund. The warming of the planet also leads to the melting of the polar ice, which, so that's another relative clause. And the last one is just a simple sentence, right? Okay, any questions about this one?
Kara, if someone cannot explain, if someone doesn't know how to explain this greenhouse effect is, do we really have to explain like this science behind this? Like,
well, as you know, you don't have to explain the science behind it, but of course that's something that is common knowledge. So global warming is usually something that comes up in IELTS, so it's a good idea to study and to read about it a little bit. And in general, there are lots of articles and videos and things that, and this is basically, I've really, really simplified it, right? Because it's for an IELTS essay, so the science is not really important. Even the science could be wrong, that doesn't matter. What is important is that you have coherence and cohesion, and the English is good, right? They don't check the science, of course. You are not expected to.
Kara, I have a question, please.
Yeah.
When they ask about causes, Kara, we have to write at least 2 causes.
I would say, yeah. Or if you are not going to write 2 causes, you're going to write 1, then it has to be really well developed, that one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Kara, sorry, one more question.
Yeah.
I was going to write like deforesting and bad waste management, like plastic and stuff. Would that be wrong? as causes for global warming? If I mention those two, and
Yeah, deforestation is also one of the causes because the trees will trap the CO2. Waste management, yes, that's another thing, but waste management is not that much, or only 3% of the CO2 is because of daily lives. 97% of it is the factories. So, but that's not important. As long as you are saying something, as long as you have an opinion, then it's fine. It doesn't have to be a correct opinion. It's just the English has to be correct.
Chiara, I have another question, please, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
If I explain what's global warming in my topic sentence, it's going to be a right topic sentence or not? Like, if I just give a brief explanation what is global warming in my topic sentence?
Well, it depends. If you are going to define global warming in the topic sentence, then you have to talk about the causes too. Because this paragraph should be about the causes of global warming, not about definition of global warming.
If I integrated the causes in the explanation, it's going to be okay, yeah?
Yeah, that should be fine. Okay, now this one is about solutions, right? So, due to the significant role of industry in global warming, most of the remedies here, basically, instead of solution, I said remedy, okay? And then for towards, you can also say at. I would say at is better, aimed at them. Governments should enter international agreements such as the Paris Accord to reduce their CO2 emissions, and industries should be forced to pay a tax on the amount of CO2 that they release into the atmosphere, right? So you can add more to this, but because my word count is going up, I'm just going to keep it this short, this paragraph, okay? For about solutions, I'm just going to talk about one solution, and that is the carbon tax. We can add one sentence here, say this is generally referred to as the carbon tax. So that's probably the most popular solution for global warming that governments impose. Just for your information, in Alberta, for example, the NDP government imposed that policy, but people didn't like it much. But that's the best solution according to the science. So, once citizens of the world understand that global warming is a consequence of human activity, particularly by big industries, then it would be easy to impose restrictions on their emissions. However, these solutions need to be implemented quickly as, according to scientists, we have about 10 years to reverse global warming before it becomes irreversible. So again, I have tried to pack as many complex and compound complex sentences. I've tried to avoid simple sentences, so most of my sentences in this essay are complex or compound complex, and then just having complex sentences won't be enough. It has to be a variety of complex sentences. So that means using relative clauses, noun clauses, adverb clauses, or putting the subordinate clause first, in the middle, at the end, two subordinate clauses, one subordinate clause. All of those in combination will increase your grammar score. And you can see that I've tried to be a little bit more subtle this time. So I haven't included in conclusion, for example, but instead I've just started my paragraph with just a sentence that rephrases the thesis. Okay, so a consequence of human activity, that talks about causes. And then it would be easy to impose restrictions, so that would be a solution. So I have mentioned both causes and solutions in this first sentence, and then that's the wrap-up. However, these solutions need to be implemented quickly as, so from here, that's a subordinate clause. We have about 10 years to reverse. Now, that's another subordinate clause here. So two subordinate clauses. And then according to scientists, that's just an introductory element, so I've separated it by commas. But you can ignore that and just look at these two. This is one conjunction, as, and then this is another conjunction before. What do you guys think? So this is about 291 words. And I think I added a final sentence here to this paragraph, so that will increase the word count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So this is 300 words, about 300 words. And that's not a bad length for task 2. So task 2 has to be 250 at least, and then go up to 300. And I think I've kept it at 300, so that's a record for me, because I usually write too much. But you can see that I have touched upon all of the issues, and I have in the conclusion make sure that you paraphrase the thesis, but mention the same ideas, and at the same time summarize the ideas in the paragraphs, and I've done that. And then you can have a wrap-up, or you can do without a wrap-up. Usually I try to have one. Yeah, and that's it. Any final questions?
Can I have a question, please, if you don't mind?
Yeah.
It's about I want to use the word dire here, and I want to know if it's just it's right or not.
Yeah.
So in the introduction, here we are faced with dire consequences of this phenomenon. Is going to be correct or wrong?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay, thank you.
We are faced with the dire consequences of this phenomenon. Yeah, that's good.
Thank you, Kara.
Kara, have you uploaded the previous webinar writings on your website? I was looking for one particular one, but I couldn't find it.
No, I haven't, because I'm waiting to move to the new website. Once I move to the new website, I will upload all of them at the same time.
Okay, thank you, Kara.
Yeah. Okay. So if there are no other questions, we can call it. And as always, thank you for participating, and I will see you next week, hopefully, for the next webinar. It will be task 1. And again, if you see anything that is interesting in terms of task 1 questions, let me know. I'll be interested to look at it and write an essay for it.